Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm calling the meeting to order of the Recycled Water Committee of Monterey One Water. We're here in the boardroom at 5 Harris Court, Building D in Monterey, California, 93940. It's Thursday, February 12th, 2026 at 3:14 p.m. We've just achieved a quorum, so we will begin the meeting now. And so I'll ask Secretary of the Board to take a roll call.
Deb,
Here.
Castroville, Marina Coast, Monterey,
Here.
Pacific Grove.
Here. Okay, so we have 3 members present in the committee. We can do business with 3. Move on to item number 3, additions to the agenda. Mr. Shudo, do you have any additions to the agenda?
No additions.
Right. And I'll ask for a motion to approve the agenda at this time.
So moved.
Second. A motion by Habina, second by Williamson. All in favor of this agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, passes unanimously. We'll proceed as stated in the agenda. Take it to item 5, public comment. This is general public comment. Anyone wishing to address the committee on matters not appearing on today's agenda may do so now. Comments on any other matter listed on the agenda are welcome at the time the matter is being considered. So seeing there are a couple of members, or at least one member, 2 members of the public in a chambers audience, would anyone wish to make general public comment at this time, not relating to an item? And anyone online? This would not be anything relating to the Cal-Am item. Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close general public comment. Go to the business items for today. Item 6A, consider approval of recycled water committee minutes. Move approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Williamson, second by Habino. Any public comment on the minutes here on or online? Seeing none, we'll take a voice vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, passes unanimously. Move on to item 6B. Consider recommending award of a contract to Airgas USA LLC for liquid oxygen for the advanced for AWPF in the not to exceed amount of $309,396. And that would be, sorry, I'm not there yet. We need to put their names on the agenda part. That's Jose.
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Chairman Smith and members of the committee. My name is Jose Guzman, Operations Manager at Monterey One Water. Monterey One Water's advanced water purification facility utilizes liquid oxygen to produce ozone to oxidize secondary effluent from the regional treatment plant to ensure operational efficiencies. The existing liquid oxygen contract with Airgas USA expires in March of 2026. Notice inviting bids was published on January 6, 2026 for a liquid oxygen contract for the AWPF with a term of 1 year and an option of 3 one-year extensions. Price increases for any extensions exercised will be based on producer price index by commodity for chemicals and allied products, as reported by the U.S. Department of Labor, and no higher than a 10% increase. 3 bids were received on February 3rd from Airgas USA, Fresno Oxygen, and West Air Gases, ranging from 94 cents to $1.32 per gallon pre-tax delivered. This contract has been budgeted for the approved fiscal year 26 budget and is included in the development of the fiscal year 27 budget. Staff requests that the Recycle Water Committee consider recommending that the Board of Directors award a contract to Airgas USA LLC for liquid oxygen for the advanced water purification facility for the not to exceed amount of $309,396. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Guzman. Director questions or committee member questions?
Move approval.
All right.
Second.
Motion by Williamson, second by Habino. We'll take it out to public. Any public comment on item 6B here in chambers or online? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and take a voice vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, passes 3-0. Thank you very much, Mr. Guzman. Move on to item 6C. So again, Mr. Guzman.
Yes, that'll be me again, Jose Guzman, Operations Manager, Monterey One Water.
Right.
Monterey One Water's advanced water purification facility requires the use of a reverse osmosis threshold inhibitor to help prevent scaling. On October 20th, 2022, the board approved the award of a contract to H2O Innovations for a not to exceed cost of $110,276.95 for the supply and delivery of RO threshold inhibitor required for AWFF operations. The contract term was for 1 year and allowed M1W the option in its sole discretion to extend the term for 3 additional 1-year terms. Price increases for any extension exercise is based on producer price index by commodity for chemicals and allied products, as reported by the U.S. Department of Labor, and no higher than a 10% increase. The first extension or first amendment was approved by the board on February 26, 2024, with a 1% increase in cost. A second extension or second amendment was approved by the board on March 31st, 2025, with a 4.1% increase in cost. Staff wishes to exercise the third and final extension, the third amendment of the contract for an additional term of 1 year ending on March 15, 2027, at an agreed no increase in cost. This contract has been budgeted for in the approved 26-year budget and is included in the development of the fiscal year 27 budget. Staff requests that the Recycle Water Committee consider recommending that the Board of Directors approve a third amendment to H2O Innovations for the reverse osmosis threshold inhibitor contract for the advanced water purification facility for the not to exceed amount of $115,897.86. Be happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Any committee member questions? All right. Any public comment on this item 6C, either online or in chambers? All right, seeing none, may I entertain a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Motion by Urbino, second by Williamson. Take a voice vote. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Again, I'll invite you to speak another time.
Third and final time. Again, thank you, Chair Smith. Monterey One Water's Salinas Valley Reclamation Project uses coagulation, flocculation, and filtration through multimedia filters to treat secondary effluent from the RTP. Chlorine is used for final disinfection of the filtered effluent prior to discharge into the 31 million gallon storage pond. On March 31st, 2025, the board approved the award of a contract to Thatcher Company for a not to exceed cost of $1,061,625 for the supply and delivery of liquefied chlorine required for SVRP operations. The contract term was for 1 year and allowed M1W the option in its sole discretion to extend the term for 2 additional 1-year terms. Price increases for any extension exercise is based on producer price index by commodity for chemicals and allied products as reported by the U.S. Department of Labor, and no higher than a 10% increase. Staff wishes to exercise the first extension, first amendment of the contract for an additional term of 1 year ending on March 15, 2027 at a no increase in cost. This contract has been budgeted in the approved fiscal year 26 budget and is included in the development of the fiscal year 27 budget. Staff requests that the Recycle Water Committee consider recommending that the Board of Directors approve the first amendment to Thatcher Company for the liquefied chlorine contract for the Salinas Valley Reclamation Project for the not to exceed amount of $1,061,625. You happy to take any questions?
All right, any committee questions?
Move approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Chair Williamson, second by Urbino. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a voice vote. Oh, I'm sorry. Public comment on item
I
60?
probably threw you off with my motion.
No, it's okay. You didn't. You're good. Item 60, any public comment on this item, chemical item? Seeing none, take a voice vote. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, passes unanimously 3-0. Thank you very much, Mr. Guzman.
Thank you.
And now we'll take it to item 6E. This is consider recommending authorization to submit the coastal development permit amendment application for modification to Monterey One outfall to the California Coastal Commission related to the Monterey Peninsula Water Supply Project. Mr. Holden, welcome.
So, Chair Smith, I'm going to pinch hit initially.
Okay.
And certainly, if and when you have more technical questions, Bob and Matt are much more knowledgeable about the overall project.
Got it.
So, to that extent, going to slightly modify the staff request, the recommended action, to consider recommending that the board authorize submission to the Coastal Commission, as you stated, Chair Smith, the amendment application, et cetera, at the February 26th board meeting. The reason for this minor change is Bob, Matt, our staff have been doing an incredible job trying to get all the information together and move this permit forward in a timely fashion. The draft application that just went out via this package, we've received a number of questions and potentially some inconsistencies within existing documents that we hope to have the next 2 weeks to iron out with interested parties, bring it back to the February 26th board meeting, hopefully, and have the full board consider the breadth of the permit request and the project itself. So slight change in the requested action. In terms of background, you know, we've been working with CalAm for a number of years in reference to their desal project and the potentially accepting brine from that project. In September of 23, we entered into a negotiation/reimbursement agreement. Within that agreement, it outlined 4 tasks: design of improvements so we can accept the brine, submitting the application for an NPDES permit from the regional board, this item, which is a Coastal Commission CDP, a coastal development permit, and then lastly, working with state lands to extend the lease. So this item is specific to number 3 to the Coastal Commission. The project itself, and once again, if you have more questions, Bob can drill down into it. It's making sure that the outfall is protected from any adverse effects of the brine. That asset is significant to our community and, you know, has a many-year life left on it. So we want to make sure that whatever we add to it that wasn't initially designed for, that it can accept that without any deleterious effects. In addition, there's a number of changes like changing the ports that are currently on the pipe from the 9 and 6 position up more of an angle to increase dispersion and dilution out in the ocean. Stainless steel bands at the joints, et cetera, et cetera. It's a fairly extensive project. As you can imagine, on an existing pipeline that we use pretty frequently, extending from the treatment plant all the way to the shore and then about 2 miles offshore. That's a really rough overview of the project. Like I said, we can get into more detail if you'd like. The process is that on this particular permit, we've been working with California Coastal Commission staff in preparing the permit. We have interacted with Marina Coast Water District and the City of Marina, because as you may know, the City of Marina has a local coastal program, which was established in what, Matt, like 92?
94.
94. Our permit was for the outfall was originally from 1980. You'll see that in the package. So we have an opinion, and staff has heard from Coastal Commission staff that our permit should go directly to Coastal. The reason we're working with Marina Coast and or the City of Marina is just to make sure that we have a meeting of the minds that it should go to Coastal, who would consult with the City of Marina, but it doesn't go directly to the City of Marina. For the agency, there is no fiscal impact. This work is being funded through that previously mentioned reimbursement agreement with California American Water. They fund us. When we get down to a certain level, we notify them. They put more money in for us to draw down on. So with that as sort of the high-level story, I'm going to reiterate that we're requesting that the committee, the Recycled Water Committee, recommend to the board to consider submitting the application to the California Coastal Commission for an amendment to the coastal development permit for outfall improvements related to the Monterey Peninsula Water Supply Project on February 26th.
23rd.
23rd.
That's the board meeting.
Wow. Okay. It's not 2 weeks from today. It's not a Thursday.
It's early.
Yeah.
Um, with that, any questions? And certainly Matt and Bob can respond.
So a slightly different recommendation that's in the packet.
Yes, it is a slightly different recommendation.
Okay, any committee member, Chair Williamson?
You mentioned that there were some questions that came in. Can you give a little bit of context in regards to what that is, or what those were?
Absolutely. So there was questions on the requirement of CEQA for this particular project and how that would be handled. We had been working with the assumption that the existing Cal-Am CEQA document for the project, which referenced changes to the outfall, is currently being amended. So is that appropriate for this application to go to coastal? Just the application to go there, not the approval. And that question has come up is, do we need to do more? Does it need to be done prior to submission, et cetera? There's also, I mentioned item number 4 is extending the lease with the State Lands Commission. Does that need to happen before coastal considers it? Also in the permit itself, it states Monterey One Water as the applicant. Going back to our negotiation and reimbursement agreement with Cal-Am, and it actually states in there that they would be the co-applicant. So there's a few details that need to be sorted out. And there's a couple others as well that frankly I don't have written down in front of me.
No, that's good. Thank you for that. I remember when we began this discussion, part of it was looking at our CIP project associated with updating the outfall and the support of that. Where are we at as far as doing our CIP?
So at this point, those projects will be separate. The closure of the sand plant has changed the beach somewhat. So if you remember back to 2017, if actually, Tom, you might have walked out there with us, where you could see the top of the outfall in that junction structure. If you go out there today, it's probably below 15 feet of sand. So there may not be a need to expedite that project. However, California Coastal Commission has been in contact with our engineering department on that existing topic. But it looks like we're separating the two projects, bottom line.
When are we looking at starting that, if at all?
Maybe never, but Matt?
Are you talking about relocation of the junction structure or the modifications to the outfall to accommodate the desalination, Brian?
The relocation of the junction structure.
Well, what we've heard from Coastal Commission staff is that they are contemplating perhaps special conditions that would trigger the need to start a project if and when the junction structure were to ever be uncovered again. As Paul mentioned, since CEMEX has ceased the sand mining operation, the sand has come back. And in fact, the junction structure is now under about 15 feet of sand dune. It's apparently okay for the near term. So to do that project would require quite a bit of soil disturbance and some construction activity. And so Coastal Commission sort of understands our desire not to do that project unnecessarily. So don't have a clear answer for you. It's really going to depend on natural conditions going forward.
Okay.
But there's triggers that Coastal can go, hey, something's happening, you need to start addressing it. But we'd have plenty of runway to get that done.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's it for me.
Director Moore?
Yes, thank you. And my apologies for getting the time wrong at today's meeting. I don't know how the heck that happened. So in some of these questions, maybe for Mr. Gilpin, who I see is on the line, we're currently operating under the 1980 coastal development permit that it was issued those many years ago by the California Coastal Commission.
There have been a couple amendments since then, correct? But overall, yes, there's that permit with some amendments.
Do any of those amendments relieve us of any of the basic requirements in that coastal development permit?
Not that I'm aware of.
I'm not aware of any
Just so you know, with this process to go forward, I'd sure like, in the interest of Monterey One Water, to make it, if there are issues that we could be challenged on, particularly if we could be challenged in court, and we can resolve them before we get to that point, I think we ought to do so. And I would hope we would all agree to try and do so. Um, I saw a couple of minor issues that, well, they're minor in the sense of looking to me like current non-compliance with the coastal development permit from 1980. But I think they could be fixed, but we probably need to fix them. They're minor in some sense. One is that the development permit required the creation of something it calls a wastewater reclamation advisory committee. When was the last time that met? I suspect there's no one in the room old enough or have been working around this long enough to remember when and if that ever met, but it's a requirement. That same page, this is page 4 of the July 19th, 1980 Coastal Development Permit. Page 4 also requires an annual report to the California Coastal Commission detailing what we've been doing in reclamation. And maybe staff has been sending that report every year since 1980. And sitting on the board, we just didn't know they were, or it was buried in 200 pages of a board packet and we missed it. And that's a possibility. Or maybe the fact that nobody in the room was around in 1980 when this permit was issued, maybe we just don't remember necessarily all this stuff and our predecessors didn't tell us about it. That could possibly be. So my understanding, as Paul has indicated, there's some issues that maybe the city marina has. I've certainly been given a brief that I'm not sure you want me to try and go over today in front of this committee, but there are some things that it seems to me we need to work out before we forward this. What is the current state of the actual design of the project? How far are we?
For the onshore part, we're at 60% design, expected 90% design in April. For the offshore part, we're at 30% design, expected at 60% design by the end of this month.
Okay, so what percentage design are we going to actually be sending to the California Coastal Commission if this were considered and approved at our February board meeting?
Right, it's the current documents. Yeah, they're all gathered together. So 60% onshore, 30% offshore.
And you discussed this with commission staff.
No, I don't think so. It's just
Okay.
that they asked for the drawings, 2 sets of full-size drawings, I think. I can't remember. Anyway, and others half-size drawings also.
Mr. Gilpin has his hand up, so I'm going to recognize him at this time. Mr. Gilpin.
I just had a question, Director Moore. If you indicated you have a memorandum, I guess you've been given in your capacity as the director here for M1W. It would sure be helpful if you can provide that to General Manager Shudo so that we can properly review all those concerns that have been documented that you have.
Oh, I'm not sure I have a memorandum in my possession. My understanding was staff was working with staff at Marina Coast and staff at City Marina on whatever their list of issues is.
We have not seen a list of issues from either yet.
Oh, okay.
I have verbally talked to Ram, but I think we were waiting for this meeting to happen.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm sorry,
Um,
I misunderstood your comments then. I thought you referenced the document, so.
Oh, I'm not. Well, I had a conversation with Rem, and he brutally, I guess, like with Paul, went over some issues. Um,
Well, he's online and he has his hand up, so I'm assuming we're going to hear about some of that when I allow public comment.
okay. Let's see. So, again, another question for Mr. Gilpin. Um, we have longstanding, probably 1980 timeframe easements, do we not, from Lone Star to cross their property with our pipeline?
Yes. Yes.
I do not know, Director.
wanna say
I'm
about
Yeah,
happy to
yes,
put that if
we
staff
do.
wants to mention it.
We do have those, and they're included in the application
Right.
as proof of our right to be there.
And what are they an easement for?
Or the land outfall, well, both outfalls and junction structure.
But does the easement indicate with any specificity what use we're putting this pipe to?
I don't remember that part.
The easements are recorded on a map as a typical sewer easement that would allow access for long-term maintenance of these sewers. And at the junction structure, so you can imagine these linear easements is 20-foot wide where the pipeline is.
Sure.
It pooches out to a square shape around where the junction structure is, sort of acknowledging that in order to access the deep junction structure, some excavation would be needed. So it's fairly typical sewer easement you would see in any, municipal environment.
So,
So
yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken, Director Moore, you're looking at the one with Lone Star, and in the character of easement, it states that blah, 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 grantee does now and will hereafter own and operate wastewater and sewage treatment and disposal facilities within that easement.
Okay. So could we be potentially challenged on using it for something different? Brine isn't wastewater.
No, but I would contend, and I'll let Mr. Gilpin talk to it, that it's just saying we will operate wastewater and sewage treatment and disposal facilities. It doesn't dictate what will be in those facilities. But once again,
Yeah. So where I'm going with this is, do
Yeah.
we at some point
can we put
need,
brine in?
can we put brine in it, or do we need to go talk with the owner of that property and get
Yes,
some modification to the wording?
to broaden that.
Right. So it's some of those the devil's in the details with these sorts of projects, are they not? And it's some of those details that were brought to my attention that my understanding is staff to staff, they're going to try and work those out, whether it's our general manager talking with the city manager for City Marina and with Rem, or whether it's Mr. Gilpin talking with their respective councils. I don't know. But
Putting brine in it several years from our.
Yeah, probably shouldn't say that.
and I wanted to,
they didn't catch us.
I wanted to address your first questions about these outfall, these reclamation committees, et cetera, going back to 1980. In my previous life, I used to write permits for discharges like this for a living for the Central Coast Water Board. And I generally know that these resources agencies like the Water Quality Control Board and the California Coastal Commission, they're generally reluctant to permit new discharges to the ocean, right? And so, and if they do, they're going to want to see that that agency has a plan to recycle water in the future and thus minimize the discharge of pollution into the environment. So it's very common to see provisions like that in permits like this. I think everyone could agree that Monterey One Water has been
They're doing it.
maximizing
Oh, absolutely.
recycling and
Yeah.
minimizing discharge of pollutants to the environment. So, although we may not be have been convening a committee for all of these years, I think it's safe to say that we've satisfied the intent of that particular
And
requirement.
it may only be a documentation issue that could be easily
Yeah.
mitigated and
Right.
dealt with. One other concern that I noted wasn't raised by our own staff, which is the project is going to take about 2 years.
Construction,
Yeah,
correct.
that's correct.
Yes.
So how long will the bypass have to operate? 2 years?
So it can be multiple bypasses. One to build well, actually, if you're talking just about this application, then you're only talking about in the coastal zone. And don't know if they're intending to do bypasses.
Well, they were mentioned in the documents.
It's mentioned, yes, as possibility, but not necessarily required.
Would that be like have an emergency bypass just in case, not operational the entire time, only if something were to occur?
Correct.
That wasn't the impression I.
They're two different, well, yes, in the coastal zone, it would all be just, yeah, if needed for a power outage or something.
Okay, that wasn't the impression I got from, having to in some way open up this pipe and put stuff in it and have to bypass wherever that's happening.
That's not necessary, right?
Right. It was part, I believe that was part of the original EIR EIS as the way that some of the work would be done. But current design is trying to work around that.
But we're not sure yet whether the current design will work around that or can work around that.
I mean, it is. I mean, their current plan. So you're speaking of just at the junction structure, really, and the current plan is to have flows continuing and divers do the work with flows in the pipeline.
Okay, well, there was what gave me pause was mention of the possibility of a bypass discharging secondary effluent into the tidal zone. And I'd certainly like to have some certainty as to whether or not that's going to happen. And if so, how long that might happen, because I can imagine that the National Marine Sanctuary, Surfrider, and local folks would not want to hear that we were just dumping 300 yards north of Marina State Beach secondary effluent into the bay.
So that I believe is again from the EIR EIS. That's the way we did it when we put in the gasket seals originally, where we chlorinated at our treatment plant. It was dechlorinated just through the pipeline. It went through the emergency bypass in the junction structure, through the concrete gutter from the junction structure to towards the ocean and then to the ocean, with fencing and other stuff at the beach. That was what was done previously. That is not what we're pursuing.
I guess I'm a little concerned about the uncertainty I'm hearing over this.
So in attachment 2, we may want to look at and change on what's page 80 of the packet, because it's more definitive that we are going to put in a bypass system and it is going to discharge in the tidal zone. It's not an emergency. It's not stated as such.
Right.
And then, of course, the reference to the CEQA requirements need to be in there as well.
In the interest of having flexibility, I think it would be prudent to apply to be able to do the bypass, but do our best to minimize actually bypassing the junction structure. And if we are to bypass the junction structure, this would just be for the work to replace the so-called WECO seals on the inside of the outfall pipe for like 1,900 lineal feet, something to
Yeah,
that effect.
because.
And I think that's what Tom's saying is that
It would be
we
on the order
wouldn't
of-
extract this. We would actually make this match what we're planning.
Right. And so if they, for safety reasons or whatever may be required, they do choose to bypass, the bypass time would be on the order of weeks just to take care of the construction activity, which is to replace those seals with the divers. It would not be on the order of months or 2 years. It certainly would not be that length of time. It
And all
would
you're
be
saying is to be
much-
specific in that.
Much shorter period.
Yeah, for sure, because I can't imagine if we send something that indefinite without that specificity to the Coastal Commission, I can imagine the Coastal Commission going, "Oh, what are you guys really doing?" And
That all you got for now?
for the moment, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and recognize public comment. Going to go ahead and ask if there's any public comment. I see one hand online, so we'll go ahead and take that one. He's been waiting patiently. Public comment on item 6E.
Go ahead, Rem from MCWD.
Excellent. Thank you. Chair Smith and members of the committee, thank you for allowing me the time to speak. 3 minutes. All right. Chair Smith, members of the committee, I think it's clear just from what's happening here that this item is not mature enough yet to move to the full board for consideration. Not to point at Mr. Holden, but both plan sets are marked as 30% design. There are significant concerns that we have regarding CEQA and which agency is the lead agency and which is not. We currently do not believe that the Monterey Water Supply Project is the CEQA document or is the appropriate CEQA document. We also have significant concerns around whether the CDP has to have a application in conjunction with, we believe, and I'll let our attorney speak to that, with the city of Marina. So Marina Coast is engaged to try to help lead through this. We want to be a participant and productive in moving this project forward for Monterey One Water, which is our JPA. But at this time, from the staff perspective at Marina Coast, we do not believe it's mature enough, strong enough yet to move forward to the full board for consideration or even to pass it along to the Coastal Commission. So with that, I'll conclude my comments. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead, Chip Wilkins.
Good afternoon, board members. My name is Howard Wilkins. I am counsel at Remy Moose Manley for Marina Coast Water District on CEQA issues and other environmental issues. I've reviewed the application that was posted this morning briefly. I did not was not able to get all the way through it and understand all the implications, but it appears to be silent as to CEQA compliance. And it did note from the application that M1 Water is the applicant, although it does say in various places it's also CalAm. It's not clear. But regardless, under CEQA, if M1 Water, as I understand it, is carrying out the project, they're required to be the lead agency for the project. That's under CEQA guidelines, section 15051. Notably, M1 Water did not receive a CPCN from the CPUC for the MPWSPER. The mitigations don't apply necessarily to M1 Water. So M1 Water has never been part and is not obligated to comply with the mitigation measures in the ER. So M1 Water has to do some type of CEQA compliance before it picks a design for the M1 outfall modifications. Certainly sounds like M1 Water has done that without completing CEQA first, and CEQA is designed so that you can look at alternatives and mitigation before you actually select a design. And it certainly doesn't appear that that has happened based on what I've read in the application. I would also note that it's important that M1 Water engage with the city of Marina as it relates to their LCP. The application indicates that the work that will be done for the outfall is very different than what was considered by the city, and it wasn't actually part of CalAM's application for the Monterey Peninsula Water Supply Project. So the Coastal Commission did not review that, it said, as part of its materials, and it did not approve it, as you know. And as I think you heard your staff say earlier, that the city adopted its LCP after the original M1 permit for the outfall. And the Coastal Act, regardless of what commission staff has said, is very clear that after an LCP is approved or adopted by the local government, within 120 days, all of the responsibilities for approving a coastal development permit are delegated to the local agency. And there's case law on that point. You can look at Citizens for South Bay Coastal at 45 CalApp 5th, 295 at pages 307 through 308. And I see my time is expiring, so I just encourage you to work with the city and make sure you comply with CEQA. Thank you.
Go ahead, DJ Moore.
Good afternoon, DJ Moore. I'm outside counsel to California American Water. Can you hear me? I was having computer issues earlier today.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Chair. I just wanted to respond to some of the comments that were just made and clarify that this is not a premature application, and it's no different than what M1W submitted to the regional board last summer. M1W is not approving this project by submitting this application. All that's being done, just like you did with the regional board, is submitting an application to another regulatory body to review its contents and consider taking a discretionary action. Under CEQA, what M1W is doing is not a project because it cannot result in a physical change to the environment. As I mentioned, last summer, a lot of issues were discussed about the outfall, and we went into a lot of great detail on modifications to the outfall. The proposed modifications were reduced substantially from what was originally proposed in 2024. And that is the version of the design, the reduced changes to the outfall that is being submitted to Coastal so that Coastal can get their process started. The regional board process will be completed, that we're already in, the regional board process we're already in, will be completed before this gets to the Coastal Commission. So all issues related to water quality will be assessed through the regional board process before this ever goes before the Coastal Commission. Regarding jurisdiction and the coastal development permit, M1W's coastal development permit for the outfall clearly vests future jurisdiction on any modifications to the outfall with the Coastal Commission, and Commission staff has confirmed repeatedly that they have jurisdiction over the CDP and future amendments to the CDP, and that is consistent with past Commission practice on CDPs that have been in place prior to the adoption of local coastal programs. And then finally, I just wanted to note, I did go back and look at the easement language that we were discussing earlier. And I do think in section 1, Mr. Shudo, actually in the easement, I think it makes it pretty clear that what's flowing through the outfall pipe is not part of the description of the easement. It just says a pipeline outfall. and that the easement covers the right to excavate, install, construct, maintain, and repair that pipeline outfall, but it doesn't speak to the contents of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Seeing no further hands, we'll go ahead and close public comment on item 6E. Public comment is now closed. Bring back to the board for discussion and action. Mr. Shudo.
I had talked about this item once it was posted with Supervisor Church, and I just wanted to convey something he had said, which, based on his understanding of the item and the supporting documents, he thinks we need to smooth things out as best as possible and doesn't know if 2 weeks will be enough. I had mentioned to him that the goal was to get this to the February 23rd board meeting. So I just wanted to convey what Supervisor
It's
Church
not
had said.
quite 2 weeks. You're right.
Yeah.
It's less.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the input.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Absolutely.
Is there harm in just having us have it come back? Because it seems like there's a more engaged conversation here. I don't know if it will be as engaged at the board level. So would there be harm in it just coming back at the March Recycle Water Committee meeting?
From my perspective, no, we can certainly do that. I guess I would like to, not to put you on the spot, Tim, much of the schedule is being requested by California American on this. So, but from my perspective, whether it's February 23rd or in March, it's fine.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Good evening, Chair, or good afternoon, Chair and board members. Yeah, this really is an integral part of our schedule and trying to meet the coastal development permit conditions and enable us to begin work in the fall of this year, 2026. Take advantage of the snowy plover season in the beach area. Otherwise, it pushes our work back to the following fall. So this would push us back 1 year if we can't meet that schedule.
Are you saying that you're pushed back a year if the full board doesn't approve this item on the 23rd of February?
Well, we feel like this is a tight time frame to get the coastal development permit approved in advance of October of this year. And, any delay will just push that.
To provide a little context, once the Coastal Commission deems the application complete, so we submit it, they got to go through it to make sure it's complete. Once they deem it complete, it'll take them about 6 months, maybe more, to approve. So if it is submitted, I'm going to make this up. Let's say we do wait till end of March. It's submitted in April. It takes them a month to deem it complete. All of a sudden, by the time it's approved, that is November.
Yeah. Any further comments or questions? Okay. Director Moore?
So, Mr. Wilkins' comments about the Public Resources Code claiming that once a local agency has an approved local coastal plan, that they take over any prior issued permits. And I think he's told me that's in Public Resources Code section 30519 subdivision A and section 30600. So I'd certainly like us maybe to get a letter from Mr. Gilpin explaining why those provisions don't apply in this case, because our pipeline crosses both land that is within the coastal zone outside of the city's local coastal plan and land that is inside of the city's local coastal plan, which seems to argue for needing 2 coastal development permits, one from the California Coastal Commission for their portion and one from the City of Marina's portion. And so if those provisions in the Public Resources Code don't apply and it's strictly up to the Coastal Commission for the entirety of a permit, I think we need to know that because, speaking of delays.
I think that's one of the items that will be addressed in the next 12 days or whatever the number is, 11 days. And Mr. Shooter, are you confident that you would have enough time in the next 11 days to bring this to the board, or what do you think?
I think that will be very tight.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll do what we can. I will say, people mentioned we should have engaged. We did. We talked, we had a Zoom in December with Marina Coast Water District and the City of Marina. Subsequently, we did have a Teams meeting with City of Marina City Manager and their attorney in January 20th or something like that. So we have been working with them. Obviously, this sort of thing does take time. I think it would be just based on the number of questions here, I think it's gonna be very difficult to get a completed report that answer, and then memos that answer all the questions that have arisen in the next 12 days.
Yeah,
But,
it seems to me that
we'll do our best.
suggestion by Chair Williamson is probably the course of action that would yield the most benefit
Well, if he
potentially.
makes that a motion, I'll second it.
I would like to hear from
Yeah.
Director Hibina also.
So this is kind of directed at Matt and Bob. In terms of this project, in terms of this permit, we're just making modifications. There's no structural building or moving of any kind of structure, correct? It's just modifying what's there.
Correct. That's
Correct.
correct. Yeah.
Okay. That's it.
All right. Does anyone want to make a motion?
Yeah. I can appreciate Calam's tight timeline around this. But obviously there's risk associated with our agency, and I think we're duty bound to make sure that everything is good. And I don't want staff to feel like they need to rush to try to get a product to the board meeting and it not be at 90% or whatever the appropriate value might be. So I say, let's just make sure we get this ready for the next Recycle Water Committee meeting. So I'll make a motion to have this come back to the March Recycle Water Committee.
Second.
At this point, I'm gonna make a legal inquiry for our attorney. Jim, are you there online?
I am here.
Okay. Director Moore seconded the motion. Director Moore arrived during the presentation, but before discussion. So my question is his vote, will he be able to vote on this action item? And if it's discretionary, I'm certainly going to allow it as the chair, but is there any legal reason why he couldn't vote on this?
No, I don't see a legal reason why he can't vote. He's attending the meeting.
Okay, great. All right, just making sure. Okay, and then, so he seconded the motion. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, we'll take a roll call vote, please.
Beth,
Yes.
Marina Coast,
Yes.
Monterey,
Yes.
Pacific Grove.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. That takes care of item 6E. Now we're on to item 7, staff reports.
Just a couple quick things. Earlier this week, I was invited to participate in a Water Research Foundation and State Water Resources Control Board workshop on where research dollars would go to coming from the state. It was a day-and-a-half workshop, invitation only about probably 35 people, and it was specific to recycled water. So both direct potable reuse, as well as ag. So that was enlightening in terms of the number of topics that are out there, all fighting for the same money. And then last week, we had a tour from CWEA in that I was going to let Tammy talk more about if she would like. You don't want to, huh? And it was good just to meet the folks from CWA and having our staff there as well.
So CWA we won the Monterey Bay area as far as large plant, which is the primary and secondary treatment, the RTP. And so anybody that wins an area can compete for the state. And at the state level, they then choose 3 of the low facilities, 3 or the small, 3 medium, 3 large, and we are in the large category, and 3 tertiary. And then they send a team, there happen to be 3 people, and they come, and for 3 hours, they basically want to see your facility. They want to talk to the people that are running the facility. And actually, Paul rescheduled his time, and he was able to start. He loves this stuff. And so he was able to kick off the presentation. And so we actually, he started the presentation, and the majority of the presentation was then, after he left, given by Jose. Did a phenomenal job as far as outlining what we have done thus far and what our plans are. And then each of the 3 took a group of about 6 of us, and they had one team that asked questions on management, one team that asked questions on operations and maintenance, and one team that went and looked at our lab and our safety. And then that was on Thursday, and on Monday, we received an email saying that we did win the state. So really
wow.
excited
Very
about that.
cool. Congrats.
That's all I have. Jose, do you want to add to that?
No, I think you summed it up all really well, but again, just credit to our staff and all the hard work they put in day in and day out.
One of the things that they were amazed about is that if there's a issue and somebody gets hurt, that we don't call the fire department. And them being the primary, we do call the fire department if somebody goes down in a digester or a clarifier, but we actually have our own team that is trained for emergency response. And every year we do a chlorine leak scenario, and every year we do a man down in one of the primaries, and we actually lift them out, a dummy, unless it's a real, no, just
Somebody
kidding.
wants to volunteer.
Yeah, you think getting
And so they were very impressed with that. They were impressed with a lot of the little things that we take for granted, but that's how we roll.
Because she said dummy.
My God.
Join us for the next spot.
Matt, you have something now?
Last time I volunteered myself with you guys.
Yeah.
I've just one item to update you on. You may recall 1 year ago, we had hired the international engineering firm Black and Veatch to help us with the preparation of a master plan for a comprehensive upgrade of the regional treatment plant. We've been working behind the scenes over the last year through a series of workshops that included a wide variety of different staff types at Monterey One Water. We wanted the perspective of operations staff, maintenance staff, engineers, executives, et cetera. And I'm happy to report that last week we had our final master plan workshop. We have a draft of the master plan report. We're in the process of putting the finishing touches on that report. And we now have some clarity about what the future of the regional treatment plant may look like. We are looking forward to preparing a full presentation to give you all in either April or May. So that's it for me.
Any further staff reports?
Nope.
All right, committee member reports. Any reports? All right. I don't have a report, but thank you very much, everyone, for coming today and coming online. Appreciate your attendance, and meeting's adjourned.